kitchen, folks. Tonight it's another first from me. I'm going to be making a very high strength and very sweet, fingers crossed, blackberry dessert wine. Let me show you the blackberries. My amazing wife goes out walking in summer, and when she goes out walking she picks blackberries, and she's just been putting them in the freezer and they've been sat there for ages, and I've been saying I'm going to do something with them, and now I am. So there's 2.970 kilos. We can just say about say 3 kilos of blackberries there. So I'm going to aim to make about 10 litres of high strength blackberry dessert wine. So before I go any further, I'd just like to say I'm sorry about the background noise. Literally just this second the Air Still Pro has kicked in. I'm making some whiskey over there, so it's a busy brewing kitchen. So just for this segment there's going to be that fan noise in the background, and I am sorry about that, but never mind, I hope it's not too distracting. So the blackberries have been frozen. I've got this nice big deep pan, and all I want to do is get them all into this pan. So I need to get the plastic off them and get them out of the plastic and into the pan. It's going to take me a little while. I'll come back to you when I've got the blackberries in the pan. I'm back with very cold fingers, and there's all my blackberries in the pan. Now I could just leave these as they are to defrost, and they will break down once they defrost, and that's what I need them to do. But I'm going to expedite that process slightly by adding some water in there and bringing them to a steam. So I'm just going to add some spring water into this pan, and maybe a litre. It's a bit more than I would normally do, but because these are frozen, I definitely want them to be unfrozen sooner rather than later. So there's about a litre gone in there. I'm going to put the lid on, so then it's gas on, and I'm going to turn this down low so it just simmers gently when it gets to a steam. So I'll come back to you with a progress update in a little while. I'm going to introduce you to some more ingredients now. I've got 3 Earl Grey tea bags, and I've got 25 grams of dehydrated Cascade hops. These are hops picked from my own garden and dehydrated by myself. This represents 125 grams of fresh hops. So I'm just going to add them with the tea bag into this pan. I've also got these now on a cooker ring, and I'm going to add another litre of spring water to these. There's a litre of spring water in the blackberries, and now a litre in the hops and tea. I'm going to put the lid on, and I'm going to bring these to a gentle simmer by adding some heat to them and turning it right down. I'm in no immediate hurry. I want this to come to a gentle simmer over, say, an hour, a bit more than an hour. Once it's come to a simmer, I'll leave it for a little while and turn it off and leave it overnight to steep. So why the hops and the Earl Grey tea bags? Well, I'll start with the Earl Grey tea bags. They will impart some tannins, and don't get me wrong, there will be tannins in this because the blackberry skins will have tannins in them, but they'll add a little bit more. Plus they'll also add some floral flavours to it. The hops will also add a floral aromatic flavour, but also a slightly contrasting bittering flavour to the sweetness of the blackberries and the sugars that's going to go into this, and I think it will give it a more complex and deeper flavour than just blackberry alone. I think it'll be more interesting on the mouth and ultimately tastier. So for now there's nothing else I need to do for this recipe other than sanitise my fermenting vessel, which is going to be a Munton's wine fermenter. So I'm going to get on with that, and I'll come back to you when something's happening. And in fact there's even more that I can be doing. So I've moved my pans around a little bit, like game of pans. I'm going to get 4 litres of spring water into my big saucepan. Okay, next job. So I've got 5 kilos of dextrose monohydrate brewing sugar. I want to put a lot into that 4 litres of water. I'm trying to put as much sugar in there as I can to go just beyond a saturated solution. This is my rationale. I want to get loads of sugar in this drink so that when the yeast finds the sugar and smashes it apart to make alcohol, it finds too much sugar and it leaves some residual sugar behind. So even though it's going to be high strength, you know, I'm looking north of 15%, it's also going to have some sweetness. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for that sort of fortified wine quality to it. So I need to get some heat onto my spring water. So there's the gas. We'll turn that down slightly. So as tidily as possible, I need to try and get the sugar out of that bag and into there. I need to weigh out how much I'm putting in. So that's 265 or 264 from one of those. I'll fill this up and then tell you what that weighs. So each one of those is 1,405 grams, so say that 1.4 kilos, and I'm going to tip this into there now. So that's all the sugar in this pan. I'm just going to move that around. Now this won't dissolve until it gets some heat to it, but what I'm hoping is that this will completely dissolve, and then I can add more and more until I reach a saturated solution. The good news is it doesn't seem to be stuck to the bottom of the pan, so I'm happy with that. So lid goes on and we'll have a progress update in a bit. I wasn't actually planning on doing the full recipe tonight, but there you go. Sometimes you just do things spontaneously and they turn out for the best. So a 45-minute update. Ooh, that's hot. So they're now simmering away nicely. It smells very hoppy in the kitchen. But I'm quite happy to turn those off, pop the lid on, leave them to steep. Blackberries. They have thawed, but they're still cold. That's fine. I'll just leave them to carry on doing their thing. Sugar water. Ah, now it's dissolved. So I'm going to add some more, just like before. And this time I've got 1.5 kilos in there. So that's now 2.9 kilos, which I think was about the same weight as the blackberries. I'll just move that around a bit, make sure there's nothing stuck to the bottom, which there doesn't seem to be. That's all good. Back in a bit. Right. Half an hour later and you can see that all of the sugar has now dissolved. I'm going to knock that off. And I'm going to leave that for now because before I add any more sugar I want to see what my original gravity reading is. Now these are getting a bit of steam on them, which suggests nice and warm. Yeah, okay, so what I'm going to do with these now is actually turn them off because I believe they should be mashable. I'm going to test that theory out with a potato masher, and yeah, they feel nice and mashable, which is exactly what I need. So freezing them breaks down the fibres, as does heating them up, and these are releasing an absolute ton of aroma, and there'll be a ton of flavour with that as well. Right, I'm going to leave them for now. Right, cracking on with tonight's brew. I'm going to put the big pan, the big pan, in the sink, and then on top of my big pan I've got this colander sieve which is held in place by the wooden spatula and the wooden spoon, otherwise it would fall in, and I've got to be really careful now. So I've got my blackberries here and they smell absolutely gorgeous, and I'm going to pour them very gently into the sieve. That's all of them in there. And what I'm very carefully going to do now is lift that sieve back onto this pan just here. So that's currently the state of play there, and put that lid back on for now. So those of you that have seen me make cider before will be ready for what comes next. These are my blackberries in here, and I've now got to push them through the sieve using this. What will happen is I'll get all the juice and the nice bits of the flesh extracted, and what will be left behind will be any hard bits and all the seeds, and that then won't go into the fermenting vessel. And it is literally a case of our make. So I'm just turning and pushing and turning and pushing with my wooden spoon. And if I lift this, you'll see that there's good stuff dripping through, and all that is the absolute flavour. Right, this is going to take me a little while. I could expect to be doing this for 20 to 30 minutes. There's no point in you watching me. I'll come back to you when I've done it. It's about 20-25 minutes later. My arm's killing. I'm knackered, I've had to strip off, as you can see, and I've also changed to pushing it through now with the back of a metal spatula, which has actually picked up the pace. But I don't know how much more I can be bothered to do. Oh, I've got quite a bit in the pan now. Right, so if I look underneath, it's still getting bits through, but nowhere near as much. Shake that off. I'll show you what I've got. So that's the stuff left in the pan, and that is what's come through, and there's quite a lot there. I would say in terms of depth, that's probably up to about there. So that's really not too bad at all from what was in there. It was full pretty much all the way when I started. 2 more minutes, then I'm done. See you in 2. I'm done, stick a fork in me. Right, that's what I've got in terms of waste. There's probably some more I could get out of that, but honestly, my arm's killing. And I've broke my sieve as well. That's what I've got underneath. So I'll take the lid off the big pan, shake the remainder off the bottom of this. This is what I've got in here. I mean, this is literally blackberry heaven. If you added sugar to this and put it on ice cream, it would be absolutely out of this world. Oh. Just have a look. So that is now going into there. So I'm going to pour it to begin with, and then I'm going to help it out with the silicone spatula. Plop. Honestly, this is going to be blackberry heaven. And with the amount of blackberry flesh in there, this is going to be a fast fermenter. Juicy berries like blackberries and raspberries ferment ever so quickly. Although it is winter, so it might not be as fast. Right, I need to scrape now. This is the lid for the big saucepan. Oh, big saucepan is now going to go back on the cooker, and it's going to stay there overnight so it cools down, because at the minute that's too hot for me to pour into plastic. It's not mega hot, but I wouldn't want to risk it, so I'm going to leave that overnight, and that's the safest option. As for my hoppy tea, that's what I've got just here. I'm going to pour my hoppy tea into the big blackberry pan, and my rationale for doing that is that there is still flavour and bits and bobs around that pan. So by pouring my hoppy tea into there and giving it a swizzle round with this, I'm picking some more of that flavour up. I'm trying not to waste anything, mainly because I'm from Yorkshire. Now I was going to leave this hoppy tea overnight to stand, but I don't think I need to. It's so pungent, I think it might actually be overpowering if I do that. So I'm going to dispose of my blackberry waste. I'm going to have to go outside into the freezing cold. I'm going to put it on the garden, then I'm going to come back and we'll deal with the hoppy tea. So it's all changed. I'm back in the sink with the big pan. Once again, the colander. This time I'll just hold it, and I'm going to tip the hops and the tea bag so that liquid goes through. And that's dripping now. And all I'm going to do is press them with this. So I'm very happy with what I've got here in the big pan. So now, it comes out again. And now it's going to stay overnight until I get up 6 AM. Then I'm going to finish off the recipe by adding it to the Munton's wine fermenter with the pectolase, yeast nutrient, and if I need to top it up with some more liquid, I'm either going to add more spring water or apple juice from concentrate. Not decided yet. So I'll catch you in the morning for what will be preparation day 2, brew day 1. See you then. Good morning folks, it's preparation day 2 stroke brew day 1. It's the next morning. It's -3 outside, so I'm back to being wrapped up inside as it doesn't feel too warm in the kitchen. But today I'm going to get all of this now put together. So here is my blackberry liquid with the sugar and with the hops and tea in there. And in the sink, I've got my Munton's wine fermenter ready to take it. Now the liquid in here is slightly warm, but by no means anywhere near hot, so it's fine. So I'm going to get this now poured into there, hopefully not going everywhere because it's going to stain. Here goes nothing. Really heavy and syrupy. That seems to have gone in okay, actually. I've got a feeling that this is going to build a strong and heavy krausen. You can see that there's not tons of room between there and the top, although there is more headspace than I would normally like to see. I feel like I just need to put a tiny bit more liquid in. So rather than open a 2 litre bottle of spring water, what I think I'm going to do is put some apple juice from concentrate in. This just contains apple juice, no nasty additives. And I'm going to put just a small amount in. I might not even put a full litre in, I'm just looking at the level raise as I do this. So I've probably put about 600 ml in there, I would say. So this is what I've now got. I need to take the original gravity, and that is lovely and buoyant, just as I wanted it. This is the kind of strength I'm looking for. And I'm starting on an original gravity of 1.116. Just what I wanted. Okay, it's time to get my dry ingredients into the brew. I'm going to begin with Young's yeast nutrient, and I'm going to put 1 and 2 rounded dessert spoonfuls in there. Now, I don't even think the nutrient's necessary because of the amount of blackberry flesh that's in there, but I'm still putting it in anyway. Now pectolase, and again, I'm not sure I even need to put this in because I'm not going to be able to see through it anyway because it's going to be so dark. But, you know, let's hope for dark and clear rather than dark and cloudy. So this should hopefully break down any pectic enzymes to leave a clearer brew. And I'm also going to add 2 rounded dessert spoonfuls of this. Whether it works or not remains to be seen. I'm then going to give the whole lot a right little stir because it's floating on the top of it, with it being such a dense liquid. Right. And here's my yeast of choice today. It's Classe dried active yeast, homebrew and winemaking yeast. And it works between 21 and 24 degrees Celsius, which it currently isn't in the kitchen, but it is in my living room. And this is good for high strength wines, dessert wines, as well as normal wines. So that's that one. So I'm going to put 1 and 2 rounded teaspoonfuls of this into the must. And again, I'm going to get my spoon and I'm going to give it a little swizzle. Just trying to get the yeasts to combine and sink in. It's now time to put the Munton's wine fermenter together. So first of all, a trub trap goes in the top. I've just realised that I've omitted to add the filter inside the Munton's wine fermenter. This goes where the tap is on the inside of the fermenter. There's no way I'm sticking my hand in there to try and do it now. Not going to happen. So it means that I'm probably not going to end up using the tap, as it will clog it up, and I'll just have to use a siphoning tube. Not the end of the world, but just slightly annoying that I've done that. Lid goes on top of the fermenter and it simply screws into place. You need to make sure it's not cross-threaded, that's the trick. And once you've got a good purchase on there, then keep going and keep going. That's good. I'm now going to lift this into place before adding water to the airlock and finishing putting it together. So I've got the fermenter in my living room, which is currently the warmest room in the house. And I'm just adding some water into the airlock, that's enough. And I simply snap this on top. Make sure it is completely secure. And I screw this into place to lock it down. And that is done. So I've got it next to a couple of tomato paste washers, which are going in the air still. But this is done for now. So the next film that you see from me will be in a day's time, and hopefully that's when fermentation has begun, so I can give you an update. So I'll catch you tomorrow. Well, it's brew day 2. The fire's lit because it's snowing outside, but I'm pleased to report that fermentation has begun. It's a little bit under temperature in the room, as you can see, 17.7. If you look at the Munton's wine fermenter in front, it's bubbling away, and there is a small Krausen on there. So I'm probably getting a bubble every 12 seconds or so, and that's fine. So unless anything dramatic happens, I'll come back to you when fermentation's over. Catch you then. Afternoon from the kitchen, folks. It's brew day 25 for my blackberry wine, for my strong blackberry, hopefully dessert wine. It's been fermenting for about 2 weeks, and then for the past sort of 10 days or so, it's not done anything. It's still sitting on the lees, and I'm slightly concerned that I've left it too long, but I've just been really busy and I haven't had a chance to do anything with it. Let's have a look. So, as you can see, the Krausen ring rose to there, it's all settled down, and the sediment and lees is down there. So this much is good stuff and that much isn't. And you can see that the lees is going where the tap is, so I don't think the tap will be any good, but I will attempt to use it. So I'm really hoping I've not damaged this by leaving it too long, but if I have and it tastes awful, then it's going in the air still. At least I'll get something out of it. So I'm just going to take a bit out of here if I can. Very thick, cloggy, sedimenty stuff. Yeah, that looks more like a smoothie. That's not really something that I want to drink, but I am going to drink it. Well, a bit of it. Right. On the nose, it smells like strong alcohol. That's not bad, actually. It's retained some residual sweetness, and I've got a little bit of a tongue tickle going on. I'm wondering whether to rack this into demijohns and add more sugar to increase that sweetness. Because I want to leave this for a long while before I open it. I'm doing it as a dessert wine. Blackberry flavour comes through. I think I've made something which is half decent, actually. It's got a bit of a fortified wine taste to it, you know, something a bit sherry-ish also. I mean, it looks minging, but could be onto something okay here. So I think what I'm going to do today is try and rack it off of the lees, off the sediment. I'm going to have to use a siphoning tube and take it from above and get it into demijohns. And then I'll have a look at it. I need to take some gravity readings, well, a gravity reading at least as well. Anyway, so let's crack on. I've sanitised a couple of demijohns. I've just got them draining there upside down on funnels. I'm looking at how much is here now from there to there, and I'm not quite sure I'm going to manage to fill 2 demijohns. I think I'm just going to see how it goes. It's going to be a case of I'll cross that bridge when I come to it, like quite often is the case when you're home brewing. Right, let's get the lid off of this. Oh, a bit stiff. Right, I am not going to be able to see this very much. It's going to be a fair bit of guesswork. It's above the sediment line currently. I can push it down a bit more. I think I'm just going to have to go for it and see what happens. My grip's not working, so I'm having to do this with 2 hands. It's not the easiest thing, and I'm also wearing a terrible coloured t-shirt for using Blackberry. Lesson learned. Hopefully not going to get any on me. Let's just see what happens. Right, it's coming out looking a bit sedimenty, and now it's okay, so I'm putting this into the first of the 2 demijohns, and let's just keep fingers crossed. I'll come back to you with an update when I've got this into the demijohns. Okay, I've took this out as it started to just basically pick up really dirty looking sediment, and so this second one is going to be a lot more sedimenty than the first one. So what I'm going to do now is equalise the volumes in them, physical volumes. So I'm going to take some out of this and put it into that one. Okay, so apologies for the background noise, the dishwasher's just kicked in, but before I do some transferring, I'm going to try and take a volume reading out of this demijohn and see where I am. So that's why there's some residual sweetness. This is looking like it's on 1.008. So I think at that, the yeast has expired before it's managed to eat all of the sugars up. So if I do add more sugars now, that's only going to sweeten the end product, and that's what I want. Right, I've got them both at roundabout shoulder height. They're not exactly the same shape demijohns, but they're near enough. Right, I've added a couple of bungs in there before I move on to adding the sugar. I just want to work out what the ABV is currently. I think a rough calculation in my head suggests it's going to be about 13%, but we'll check that out. So I started on an original gravity of 1.118. I deduct from that the final gravity, which is 1.008, and that equals 0.11. Then I multiply this by 131.25, which equals 14.4%. So that's good. That's a good percentage currently. So if the yeast is still alive, then by adding more sugar, this will go up in alcohol. But if it doesn't go up in alcohol, it will increase in sweetness. So it's a winner either way. Right, so it's bung out the first one. I need a dry funnel, so I've got a new funnel. And using a dry, clean plastic jug, I'm just going to get some brew sugar from my big bag. That's my big bag. And I'm going to pour this through the funnel gently. Now the brew sugar dissolves fairly easily, but it's going to need agitating as well. But what it should also do is increase the physical volume within the demijohn. So there's less headspace, because headspace isn't good. Right, I've added my first jug full, and I've got this device to stir it, which I've just cleaned. This is a meat fork, and this is exactly the sort of thing that you stab your joint of meat with to carve it. It fits nicely in the mouth and neck of the demijohn, and it's long. So I've washed it, it's clean, so I'm going to agitate this around so that that sugar doesn't just sit on the bottom and form a layer, which it will do, but it will dissolve, and I'm going to have to do this every couple of days, I think, really, until I can see no more sugar. But it will help it to dissolve, absolutely, by moving it around, and it actually has done. It's taken it off the bottom, so that's good. Right, so I'll take that out, put the funnel back in, and I'm going to get some more sugar. So it's a repetitive process. I'll come back to you when I've finished doing it on this demijohn. Right, I've added about 600 grams of sugar into this now, and I'm quite happy with where that is. I think fermentation might kickstart a little bit, just because the yeast's going to get excited that something's happening in there with all the movement and that bit of sugar. There is a bit of sugar in the bottom. You can see there's a lump of it there, but overall that line isn't too bad. So if I give that a stir every couple of days, that will disappear in pretty much no time. What I want to do now though is take another gravity reading. Much more buoyancy now, and this is now on 1.052, 1052. So it's currently 14.34%. I've taken another gravity reading now, and I'll take another gravity reading at the end. If there is a difference in those gravity readings, that means that some more fermentation has happened, and then I can add the two ABVs, which I'll work out together to work out what the final ABV is. So it might be 14.34%, and there might end up being another 1.5–2% that it makes from it. I don't know, it might not do anything, but what it will certainly do is make a sweeter drink, and that's what you want for a dessert wine. So I've got to do exactly the same now for the second demijohn. There's no point in you watching me do that. I'll come back to you when I've done it. Right, that's both demijohns done. There is a little layer in the bottom there, which is probably sugar in both of them, but I will give it a stir every couple of days until that disappears, and it won't be too much of a problem. Miraculously, they've both finished on the same restarting gravity of 1.052, which surprised me because I didn't expect exactly the same amount of sugar to go into both of them, but that's how it's worked out, so that's great. So I've labelled them up again. So Blackberry and Hops dessert wine. Brew day 1 was the 29th of November 23. They were racked on the 23rd of December 23. They're currently 14.34% plus whatever happens after that when I take a final gravity. Now there's positive pressure in both airlocks and there's been a little bit of bubbling, but I think that's down to agitation as much as anything. So that's it for today. I'm just going to put these away somewhere dark, hopefully reasonably warm. I'm not going to touch them for probably a few months. We'll come back to them then and see what they look like. So I'll catch you then. Good evening from the kitchen, folks. It's brew day 56 for my Blackberry and Hops dessert wine. It's been a while, so I thought I'd come back to it, have a little look at it today, have a little taste, and then decide if I want to re-rack it or not. I've got some tools and bits and bobs over here that I'm going to be using. So first of all, let's have a look at the demijohn. Now you can't see through this, it is not opaque, but what you can see is that there's only a tiny bit of sediment there in that one, and there's none in this one at all. That is sediment free. So I'm quite happy with that. Now there is a slight concern that sitting on that tiny bit of sediment could lead to off flavours, but I'm gonna err on the side of it being okay. I mean, this one definitely should be okay. But what I want to do today is have a little test. So I need to take the bungs out, and obviously that always leads to the possibility of oxidisation. Now I don't want that to happen, but that's part and parcel of the process. So what I want to do to begin with is to take a gravity reading and see where I am compared to what I was before. So I'm going to waggle the bung out of this one, and I'm going to drop the hydrometer in. Hopefully I can get it back afterwards. So before I was on 1.052, and I've actually gone over that now. So that means that the extra sugar that I've put in there, some of the stuff that went in didn't dissolve, and it's dissolved over time. So when I took the gravity reading before, the sugar hadn't dissolved, and now it's dissolved over time. The gravity reading has increased, but what that also means is that no more fermentation has taken place. So I should have a sweet wine here. Right, so it looks like it's currently on 1.056. So it's gone up ever so slightly. So it was on 14.34%. I'm just going to say 14% now. So what I need to do is have a little taste test. So my next tool today is a straw, just a normal drink straw. And again, I'm just going to take the top off, dip the straw in, pinch the top, and then the vacuum will hold the wine in the straw. And now I'm going to taste it. Wow, that is absolutely banging. It's like sherry. That is so good. Very, very happy with that. Flavour wise, that is the dessert wine I was looking for. It's brilliant. So blackberry, but then you've got that sort of hoppiness that comes in at the end, kind of under the tongue almost, which is a bit bizarre. So I've got some Campden tablets here. Now these guarantee that there will be no more fermentation. It's done. But what I want to do with the Campden tablets is just take one of them and I'm going to crush it in between 2 teaspoons. It's a bit like Breaking Bad, but not in an illegal way. So that's what I've got just there in the teaspoon. It's mostly crushed. And again, bung comes out, funnel goes in, and Campden tablet now goes inside, and that will dissolve. Now I'm going to follow that Campden tablet now. There is a little bit of airspace in the top of this, and it's not much, but it is a little bit. And I want to follow it with some brewing sugar. It's a very narrow funnel. I'll come back to you shortly when I've got it all in. Right, that's the first one done. You can see there's barely any airspace there, so I'm happy enough. I think that that's going to be all right. There might be a fractional tiny bit of activity because that bit of sugar went in there, but the Campden tablet will soon counteract that. And this should stop, and I want to leave this now for quite a while. So I've got to repeat that with the other demijohn. Unless there's anything dramatically different, then I'll come back to you when I've done it on the other one too. Okay, that's them both done now. Now there is a tiny bit of activity. You can see that there's a little bit of bubbling going on there, and I have got some positive pressure in the airlock. It could be because of the sugar, it could be because I've just washed the outside with warm water and that's just sort of triggered it a bit as well. But basically what will happen now is the Campden tablet will eventually kick in and fermentation will die dead. Nothing's happening in that one. So I just think that one's just got a little bit excited, but it will stop. So I'm going to put these away somewhere dark and somewhere cool for quite a while now, and then I'm going to come back to them and bottle them sometime in 2024 in spring, maybe summer, we'll see. But I don't intend to actually drink these for possibly a year. Ooh, that's going to be quite exciting. Right, I'll get back to you then. Good afternoon from the kitchen, folks. It's been a long time. This is brew day 137, and I haven't done any home brewing whatsoever for over 3 months. I need to get back on that horse, don't I? So this is a blackberry and hops dessert wine update. Today I am bottling. Let's have a look at it. So what does it look like after 137 days? Well, it's overwintered in my office, which is the coldest room in the house, and you can clearly see a good sediment line in the bottom of both demijohns, demijohn 1 on the left and demijohn 2 on the right. And if I put my fingers behind the demijohn, you will see that that is beautifully clear. I am very happy with the appearance of this, and so today I'm going to bottle it into normal wine bottles and some spirit bottles. I'm going to attempt to use normal wine corks, which I've not done before, using this instrument which looks like a medieval torture device. I have never used one before, so this is going to be interesting. And then to finish the bottles off with labels and some shrinkable seals. It's going to be a learning curve for me. Let's crack on. So before I go any further, I'd just like to apologise for the background noise. The dishwasher is on, but it needs to be on because I've got a busy day of doing stuff. So it's time to get the bung out. Oh, that's taking a bit of encouragement, but there we go. You can see the pressure in the airlock has equalised, and that's come out nicely. So the siphoning tube goes in, and I want to try and keep it out of the sediment. I'm trying not to stir this up as much as I can. I accept that the first one is probably going to be a bit sedimenty, but hopefully after that it won't be. Just getting it down as close as I dare. Right, I'm just here. I'm going to leave it there, so it is about ½ centimetre above the sediment line. I've not got my hydrometer tube to hand, so the first bit that comes out I'm going to put into this jug, and then I'm going to pour it into the hydrometer tube. Let's rock and roll, folks. So the first bit, slightly murky, but not too bad at all. I'm putting that into the jug, and now I am moving into the bottles, and in we go. So it's in the first bottle, so I've got a variety of different bottles here today. I've got port bottles, I've got wine bottles, I've got spirit bottles. It's got a big red wine smell, but we'll see. It doesn't smell like it's going to be a sweet wine. Can you smell sweetness? Sorry for the background noise again. Dishwasher decides to empty, and into the next bottle. So today I didn't put any carbonating sugar in the bottles because obviously I don't want this to carbonate. I don't want a sparkle. I don't want the bottles to explode because these are not bottles that are tolerant of pressure. And I'm going to try and fill them a little bit less than I would if I was putting the champagne type bungs in, because I've got a feeling pushing the corks in is going to be a little bit difficult. So it's coming down nicely in the demijohn, nice and steady. It's not rushing out too quickly. I'm happy about that. Nice and steady flow. It does look quite syrupy. And then on to the next bottle. We'll really see the value of the colour once we're in the clear glass bottle, and I think it's going to look absolutely beautiful, this one. I am going to risk pushing that down a little bit further. Oh, I'm going to get sediment if I do, so I won't. I did see the sediment start to rise then. So this bottle will half fill. So it'll be 5.5 bottles. And there we go, bubbles in the siphoning tube. Tell me that that is that for now. So that really is an absolutely gorgeous colour. Look at that. It's a pity that the rest of my bottles are coloured glass, but I didn't really have any other ones that were wine bottles that were clear glass. I've got spirit bottles, but I wanted to start with the wine bottles. So this is going to be interesting. I have no idea how successful I'm going to be. I'm looking at these corks now and looking at the tops of the bottles and thinking, Now I did order the size that was recommended to me. I think it was size 11. I could be wrong. 11 or 9, but it was whatever was recommended to me for reusing with wine bottles that have had screw tops on them. I'll just see what happens. So I've never used one of these before. Like I said, I don't really know what I'm doing. In fact, I can't even see how this works. So this is the situation as is. I'm going to try and work out what to do here. I've not seen any instructions. I'm going blind. Right, so what the heck do I do with this? I put that on top, do I? And how does this work? How does this even work? I just don't get what I'm supposed to do. I can't put the cork. Oh, does it want me to? Oh, gosh. Right. I've got the feeling now that I've got to put the cork inside here. Right. Now I get it. Oh, I should have watched a YouTube video, shouldn't I? Right. Now that goes on top. This makes more sense now. Now it's gripping the neck of the bottle and the metal bar at the top is pushing the cork downwards through the white part. And it really doesn't want to go. Oh, I feel like I'm going to break the bottle. Oh, blimey. Is it meant to be this difficult? Oh, gosh. Oh, it's done it. Oh, wow. Right, that was a struggle. I've pretty much done it. It's not 100% even on top, but I can live with that. Right. Now I understand the principle of how this works. Oh, I've got a right sweat on. It's giving me a sweat on that as. I thought it was going to break the bottle. Right, okay. Right, you've seen me do the first one. I'm not going to go through that with everyone, but I will do one more just to demonstrate again. Now I understand how it works. So bottle number 2. So I get my cork, and I don't know if there's meant to be an up or a bottom, but I'm doing it so that the wine glass which is on the cork is facing upwards. So I'm going to put the cork inside here. That's dropped in place. Put that on top of the bottle and push, and just keep pushing at a steady pace. It really does feel like the bottle's going to break though. My word, I'll tell you what, it's good exercise. Gosh. Oh, that's better. That's a better one. You can see that the air pressure build up, because that's obviously causing the air to come out, is now causing a slight bit of bubbling on top of the cork, because the cork had wet first, which is what I'd read you do. You just give them a wet. I didn't soak them, I just give them a wet. Okay, that's 2 done. So this is definitely a learning curve for me, but I'm really pleased actually that I've had a go at doing this now and I understand the principles of it. I'm going to carry on. There's no point in you watching me do all of these. So I'm going to get all of these corked and then I'll come back to you after I've done the first batch. Right, that's my first 5 bottles done. That cork's gone in further than the others. That one's slightly raised, that one's slightly raised, but I think overall I'm pretty happy that this is working out okay. So I'm just going to give these a quick rinse because there's definitely stickiness on the bottles. Shake off the excess moisture. And I'm going to put these to drain, or dry I should say, on this tea towel. Okay, so while my first ones are drying off, I'm going to carry on with the rest of them. There's no point in you watching me do the siphoning again or using the corker because you've seen me do that now. So I've got this demijohn to do. When I've done that one, I'll come back to you. Okay, so that is what was bottled from Demijohn number 1, and this is what's been bottled from Demijohn number 2. Now in Demijohn number 2, none of these are wine bottles, and you can see that the corks haven't fully gone in on some of them. So I've got two options. I either just leave as is, or for aesthetics, I take a sharp knife and just trim the top off. Now that's probably the wrong thing to do, but I am aesthetic, so I'm going to do that. So I'm just going to use the knife and go flat to the top of the bottle. There we go. And now you can see I've got a nice flat finish. Right, I'll come back to you shortly. So no apologies for the background noise at the minute, because the kettle is a necessary evil for the next step. So I need to put my shrink wraps on the bottles. And on they go like so. Might take a little bit of persuading. They'll all go down, and I want to push them all down as far as they will go. Now hopefully they'll fit on all of the bottles. This one's going to be a bit of a challenge. That's not going to work, so I'm not going to get it on this one unfortunately, because it's too wide. So that tells me next time not to use the Coburn's port bottle, or Cockburn's port if you want to say it like it's spelt. Right, this is how the magic happens. Boiling water touches the plastic, it immediately shrinks, and it shrinks to the shape and the size of the bottleneck. And this is how we do it. I've got the rest to do, I'll come back to you. Right, I've still got them separate, so I've now got Demijohn number 2s on this side, and I've got them with the shrink wraps on that I could get on. There was one bottle which I couldn't do, and in fact this bottle is a mixture of 1 and 2, it's 50-50. And over here, these are Demijohn number 1, and again there's one which I couldn't do, but the rest are on nicely. I'm still keeping them separate for a good reason, and that's because I need to work out what the final gravity is for this brew, so I can work out the ABV. And I'm keeping them separate because I'm not 100% sure whether it's going to be exactly the same in both Demijohns. So I'm going to begin by taking the final gravity for Demijohn number 1, the final gravity. Now the final gravity is higher than what it was at the beginning, and that's because of all the extra sugar that I've put into it. So this is actually a useless exercise. There's no point in me doing this. I'm just going to have to go with what it says on the Demijohns. Let me just grab one. So it was 14.34%. Then when I'd added sugar the first time, it went to 1.052%, and I've let it ferment out. And I've added more sugar as I've been going along, and obviously it's fermented out. I've added the Camden tablet to kill it off, and it's fermented out and fermented out and fermented out. But as I've been adding more and more sugar, then that syrupiness has increased. So this is a pointless exercise. So all I can say to you is, I know that it's more than 14.34%. So I'll err on the side of caution. I'm just going to call it 15% for both of them, because I don't really know what else to say. It's a guess, but there we go. If I had one of those fancy electronic devices that takes the ABV, then I'd know exactly what it was, if anyone wants to sponsor me and buy one. So 15%, there we go. Okay, so here is the half bottle, which is going to become tonight's sampler in the conservatory. But do you know what? Let's just have a little taste now for the film, so I can talk you through what I get from it. So I've just put a little bit in the glass, and it is a lovely colour. It's, you know, I mean, we're looking at dragon's blood colour there. It's a really nice colour. Smell-wise, really good smell, good body. It's kind of like a red winey smell, but also it's got that slight sort of aromatic sweetness that you get with a rosé too. So it's not like a harsh clarity red wine smell. Okay. Wow. It's absolutely delightful. This is going to be really good after aging, I think. Wow. It's possibly one of the best flavoured brews I've ever made. The blackberry is massive. The hops add a bit of background tang, but are not overpowering in any way, shape or form. It's all blackberry and sweetness. It tastes like a sherry. That's what I'm getting. If you'd have poured me one of these blind and said, what are you drinking? I would have said sherry. It's beautiful. So I think if I save one of these for Christmas, if they'll last that long, they will do. I think this is going to be a cracker. So I'm going to open these in stages. So I'll do my first official opening probably in let's say 6 weeks time, 8 weeks time. Give it a little bit of time to settle down in the bottle. And then I might do another one at Christmas and another one next year and stagger them and see how they progress. But this is something that can only get better with age, I think. It is absolutely lovely. Anyway, folks, I hope you've enjoyed this stage in the film. I've got one more thing to do, and that's to add the labels. And that beeping you can hear is my brain going, wow, that's nice. It's actually the bread maker. A loaf is ready. So there's the loaf of bread for anyone that's interested. 50-50 white and wholemeal. Lovely. Anyway, back to my wine. And yes, you just got a glimpse of this and this. So this is a Fomamo Bluetooth printer. This is my iPhone. And all I'm going to do is tell it that I want to get 11 copies of this label. And then I'll let the magic happen. There they are. Oh, got one on my fingers. Right, get that one on first of all. Make sure the bottle is dry where I apply it. And get it the right way around. I've done that before. As in the wrong way around. One down, 10 to go. I'll come back to you in a minute. And there they are. The starting 11. The Reds. You Reds. Right folks, I'm up in the bedroom, which is my wine conditioning room, and it's not the bedroom I sleep in. I wish it was. Anyway, I'm going to leave these bottles stood upright for 3 days, and the reason I'm doing that is that there's air pressure inside there from me forcing the corks down, and that will seep out through the corks, and these little holes in the top here are designed to release that air out. So the conditioning process for this is simply an aging process. There's no carbonation or anything like that. I don't want carbonation. So I've got to leave these stood upright, and then I'm going to lay them flat. And then when I've laid them flat, they're going to stay like that until I open them and taste them. So I'll catch you in a few weeks' time, probably let's say 6 to 8 weeks' time, and I'll open one then and see what it's like. Okay? Catch you then. Oh, stop. Incidentally, you lay them flat because they're corks and you don't want the corks to dry out. Okay, so you lay them flat so the wine comes into contact with the cork, which to me, it feels wrong, but that's what the experts on YouTube say, so I'm going to go with them. Okay, so you lay it flat, let the wine touch the cork stays moist and therefore it doesn't dry out and shrink, and your wine should stay in decent condition. That's the science. Right, I am going now. Catch you in a couple of months' time. Good evening from the kitchen, folks. It's been just over 3 months since I bottled my blackberry and hops dessert wine. This is Brew Day 241. So yeah, there's been a bit of time gone into this one, and I'm hoping that time equals quality. Let's see. So tonight it's the grand opening and tasting night. I've got to get this off, I've got to get the cork out, have a sniff, have a taste, and let you know what my thoughts are. Now, I've had this in the fridge because it is a rosé, and I wasn't sure whether a dessert wine should be room temperature or cold, and then, do you know what? It doesn't matter. The other advantage of putting it in the fridge has been that any sediment which was in there has dropped to the bottom, and there was a bit of sediment and it had been laying on its side, so the sediment is now in the bottom of the bottle and won't go into my glass. Right, I need to get this open. So I shall try and as neatly as possible to get the top off. It's been a while since I've opened one of these. I mean, if you buy wine from the shop now, it's just a screw top, isn't it? Unless you go to those posh shops. Right. Okay, so that looks pretty good. It stayed nice and neat, show you that. Here's my trusted waiter's friend. I used to work at a hotel called Ardsley House. Oh, crikey, 30 years ago? Oh, blimey. I nicked this from there when I worked there. And I still use it to this very day. Right, I was probably the reason that Queen's Motors went bankrupt, actually. But anyway, that was another life. Right, so what I'm going to do is hopefully extract the cork in one. Oh, I do like that sound. Right, it smells very fruity and very alcoholic. In fact, it smells a bit like a trifle. You know, like a sherry trifle type smell. Let's have a look at that. Very syrupy. Gosh, is this diabetes? Now, I am getting a bit of sediment, unfortunately. I was hoping I wouldn't, but it does seem to have stirred it up from the bottom. Never mind, it is only fruit. Nothing to be scared of, unless you're scared of fruit. Right, so let's just look at that. It doesn't look too bad, does it? It's a nice colour, but very syrupy. I mean, that's what a dessert wine is, and really you shouldn't drink a bottle of dessert wine in one go. It's not a good idea. Hopefully I won't. Oh, gosh, wow, potent. Tons of fruit. And a lot of sweetness on that smell as well. Wow. It's like drinking, you know when you buy tinned strawberries and you take the strawberries out of the tin and you've got that syrup left in the bottom? It's like drinking that syrup from a tin of strawberries, even though it's made with blackberries. That is the flavour. There is a lot of sugar in this. Okay, I need to be quite sensible with this one. If I drink a whole bottle of this tonight, it ain't going to do me any good. So I think this is going to be done over a couple of nights. Obviously, I don't want to leave it too long because I don't want it to go off. You know, that's always my good excuse. But let's get back to the flavour. So first of all, on the profile, it's sweet. It is sweet with a capital S and a capital W and two capital E's and a capital T. It's sweet, really sweet. It's very, very delicious. The fruitiness is incredible, and the bittering of the hops has really subsided just to give it an extra interesting dimension. It tastes more like strawberries than blackberries. If you'd given me this blind and said, what have you got there? I would have said strawberries. I'd have said it's a strawberry liqueur. That's exactly what it tastes like, a strawberry liqueur. It's completely and utterly delicious and Moorish and very dangerous, obviously. High sugar content, so keep in mind. And it might even be all right diluted with a bit of diet lemonade, actually, just to sort of tamp it down a little bit. But it's actually gorgeous. Yeah, so this would be a very, very nice digestif after a meal or something like that. Just a small, very small amount, which is what a dessert wine intentionally is for. Wow. I think out of all the wines that I've ever made, I think this is possibly the best one. And I did say that when I made the carrot and orange wine, which I thought was blooming lovely. But this one is another kind of lovely. It's a different beast, and it's a sweet beast. Anyway, I need to get a picture for the front of the film, so just bear with me. And the usual pose. Thank you. So, I'm going to enjoy some of this tonight, not all of it. I hope you've enjoyed the film. Thank you very much for watching it this far. If you stayed with it this far, then it must have been all right. It's been a long process making this, but hopefully the resulting film will be worth it. The drink certainly is. So thank you for supporting my channel. If you haven't yet subscribed, please subscribe. Please press the like button. Please comment on the films, all that sort of stuff. It helps the channel to grow, and I'd really, really appreciate it. So thank you so much, folks, and cheers. and I'll catch you on the next film, whatever that may be. Who knows? Oh, it's sweet. The film that you've just watched is a Moss Home and Garden production. You can find more by going to www.mosshomeandgarden.co.uk. I'd just like to say thank you very much for supporting my YouTube channel and for watching my films. It really is very much appreciated. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to my YouTube channel in order to receive future updates about the home and garden films which I upload. You can find my YouTube channel by going to www.mosshomeandgarden.co.uk. Please click on the red subscribe button. When you've done that, a little bell will appear. If you press that also, then you'll get future updates about the films which I upload. If you like my films, if you like my style of filming, then you might also like my travel channel, which you will find by going to youtube.com/Stuart Moss or type in www.mosstravel.tv. Again, if you could subscribe to that channel, it would be hugely appreciated. If you'd like to get Moss Home and Garden updates on Facebook, then please open Facebook and do a search for Moss Home and Garden, and you will find the page. If you like the page, then you will get future updates on there. And if you'd like to connect on Instagram for home, garden and travel photography, as well as some stories, then my username is StuMoss, STUMOSS. If you'd like to connect on Twitter, then my username is @StuartMoss. And if you'd like to contact me about film usage or any other issue, please just email me on stewmosshomegarden@gmail.com. Once again, thank you very much for supporting my channel, for watching my films. I do appreciate it. I'd just like you all to have a great day.